The alarm blared through United Earth Defense Headquarters. Commander June looked up from his desk, his face lit by flashing red lights. "Sir, we have an unknown object entering our solar system," said the young officer at the radar station. "It's big, really big." June rushed to the main screen. The object moved fast, too fast for any human ship. Within hours, it passed Mars. "Call the World Council," June ordered, "and get me our best diplomat." 3 days later, the alien ship sat in Earth orbit. It was massive, almost the size of a small moon. Its dark metal hull absorbed light rather than reflected it. Diplomat Mina Kim stood beside Commander June as they waited in the International Space Station. Earth had been united for almost 50 years now. After the resource wars, they faced space together as one people. "Do you think they come in peace?" Mina asked. June's face remained stern. "I hope so, but we're ready if they don't." The airlock hissed open. 3 tall figures entered. They looked like giant insects walking on 2 legs. Their bodies were covered in hard, shiny plates. 6 eyes on each face moved independently. The center alien stepped forward. Its mouthparts clicked and hummed before words came out in broken English. "We are the Vor. We rule this sector of galaxy. You now serve us." Mina stepped forward with a slight bow. "Welcome to Earth. We wish to establish peaceful relations." The alien cut her off with a wave of its clawed hand. "No relations, only service. We demand tribute." "Tribute?" June asked, his hand moving closer to his weapon. "Resources, metals, food." The alien's eyes focused on Mina and June. "And people." A cold silence filled the room. Mina tried again. "Perhaps we can discuss terms that benefit both." The alien made a sound like grinding metal. It might have been laughter. "No discussion. No terms. You are primitive. We are advanced. This is natural order." The alien tapped a device on its arm. A hologram appeared showing planets being destroyed. These worlds refused. They are gone now. June stepped forward. "Earth is not defenseless. Your weapons are toys to us." The alien touched its device again. On Earth below, a small uninhabited island exploded. The blast was visible from space. Mina gasped. June's fists clenched. "That was small weapon. Our ship carries much bigger ones." The alien's mouthparts clicked again. "You have 30 days to prepare first tribute. We require 5,000 tons of rare metals, 1,000 tons of biological material, 500 humans. People are not resources," Mina said, anger breaking through her diplomatic training. "To Vor, all is resource." The alien turned to leave, then stopped. 30 days, or we take what we want and burn your cities." After the aliens returned to their ship, emergency meetings began. World leaders argued over screens. "We must fight," said Defense Minister Han. "Fight with what?" Another leader replied. "You saw what they did to that island." June stood at the window looking at the alien ship hanging in orbit. It looked like a predator waiting to strike. "Commander." Mina joined him at the window. "What do you think we should do?" June turned to her, his eyes hard with determination. "In our history, giving in to bullies never ends well. They'll take their tribute, then demand more next time. And more after that. But their technology is so advanced." "Technology isn't everything," June said. "Throughout history, the side with better technology doesn't always win. The side with the stronger will often does." Mina studied his face. "So we fight?" "Not yet." June turned back to the window. "First, we need to learn more about them. Find their weakness. Every species has one." He pressed a button on his comm unit. "Get me Engineer Sue and her team. Tell them it's urgent." Above them, the alien ship cast a shadow over Earth. 30 days to prepare their tribute. 30 days to find a way to save humanity. June made his decision. "We'll play along for now. make them think we're complying. But in secret, we prepare for war. The World Council chamber was packed. Leaders from every nation sat around the large round table. Screens around the room showed the alien ship in orbit. "We should give them what they want," said one leader, fear clear in her voice. "We cannot fight them." And then what? Military strategist Han stood up. His voice was strong and filled the room. "They will come back for more, and more, until there is nothing left of us." Commander June nodded. Han is right. History has taught us that giving in to threats only brings more threats. "But their weapons," another leader started, "are stronger than ours." June finished. "For now. But we have something they don't expect." He pressed a button, and the door opened. A small woman with short black hair walked in. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. "This is Engineer Sue," June said. "She may have found a way to fight back." Sue placed a small device on the table. "The aliens call themselves the Vor. When they spoke, I recorded the sounds they made. Their language has patterns that match their brain activity." She turned on the device. Strange clicking sounds filled the room. "Their brains work differently than ours. They use a type of shared thinking, like a hive mind." Sue continued. "This sound disrupts that connection. It's only a theory now, but with time, I believe we can build a weapon that targets their biology." The room was quiet as everyone thought about this. "How much time do you need?" Han asked. "More than 30 days, Sue admitted. The world president stood up. "Then we must buy you that time. We will pretend to prepare the tribute while secretly building this weapon." The plan began at once. On the surface, Earth appeared to be gathering the demanded resources. Ships moved metals from mining sites. Food was collected. But underground, a different kind of work was happening. Deep beneath the old mountains of Korea, Engineer Sue led a team of the world's best scientists. They worked day and night to develop the weapon that might save humanity. Commander June visited the secret lab often. This time, he brought diplomat Mina with him. "How is it going?" he asked as they watched Sue work through a glass wall. "Slowly," Mina said. "But Sue thinks she's making progress. The problem is testing. We don't know if it will actually work on the aliens." June frowned. "We need more information about them. About how they think, how they fight." "I might be able to help with that," Mina said. She pulled out a small tablet. "I've been studying the recordings of their language. I think I can understand some of it now." She played a recording and translated. "The Vor have conquered 17 other species. All are now gone or slaves." June's face grew hard. "Then we know what happens if we fail." In another part of the facility, Han trained soldiers for a new kind of war. They would need to fight an enemy unlike any they had faced before. "The Vor are not invincible," he told his troops. "They bleed. They die. Remember that." As the deadline grew closer, Earth's leaders put on a show for the aliens. They sent messages about the tribute, asking for more time, appearing weak and afraid. The Vor responded with threats, but granted 10 more days. "They enjoy our fear," Mina told June as they watched the alien messages. "They feed on it. Then they will be surprised when they find out what humans do when truly threatened," June replied. "We don't just get afraid. We get dangerous." On the 25th day, Sue called an emergency meeting. "I've done it," she said, her eyes bright despite her exhaustion. "The weapon works in the lab. But there's a problem." She showed them the device, now the size of a small car. "It has to be close to them, very close, and it has to be inside their main ship to affect their whole fleet." June looked at the device, then at his team. "Then we'll find a way to put it there," he said. "No matter what it takes." Scientist Dai stood at his lab table, staring at the empty sample containers. He was young for his position, but the best in his field of alien biology. His hand shook slightly as he packed them into his bag. "Are you sure about this?" Engineer Sue asked from across the room. "It's too dangerous. We need real samples," Day replied. Without them, we're just guessing. He closed his bag. Besides, the diplomatic meeting is our only chance to get close to them. Commander June entered the lab with Diplomat Mina beside him. Everything ready? He asked. Day nodded. If I can get just 5 minutes alone on their ship, I can collect what we need. You'll have 3 minutes at most, June said. Mina will keep the Vor ambassador talking while you slip away. If they catch you. The words hung in the air. Everyone knew what would happen. They won't, Dad said with more confidence than he felt. The next day, a small human ship docked with the Vor mothership. Mina led the diplomatic team, dressed in formal Earth clothes. Dad wore the uniform of her assistant. The inside of the alien ship was hot and smelled strange, like metal and rotting meat mixed together. The walls looked alive, pulsing with veins of light. The Vor ambassador met them in a large room. It was taller than the ones they had seen before, with darker plates covering its body. You bring news of tribute. It clicked at them. Mina bowed slightly. Yes, Ambassador. We wish to discuss some details of the arrangement. While Mina kept the alien's attention with questions about the tribute, Da slowly backed away from the group. When he reached the door, he slipped out into the corridor. The alien ship was like a maze. Day followed the pulsing veins in the walls, guessing they might lead to something important. He turned a corner and froze. A large chamber opened before him. Inside were hundreds of tanks filled with green liquid. In each tank floated body parts, some alien, some from creatures Da had never seen before. Their lab, he whispered to himself. Perfect. Working quickly, he took samples from different tanks. He scraped material from the walls and collected the strange air in a special container. Suddenly, a noise made him turn. 2 Vor drones were entering the lab from another door. Day ducked behind a tank and held his breath. The drones moved around the lab, checking equipment. One came so close that Day could have reached out and touched it. Finally, they left. Day didn't wait any longer. He ran back the way he came, following the pulsing veins in reverse. He reached the meeting room just as Mina was finishing her talk. Thank you for your time, Ambassador, she was saying. We will have the full tribute ready as promised. Back on Earth, Day rushed to the lab with his samples. Sue and her team worked nonstop for 3 days, barely sleeping or eating. On the 4th day, Sue called everyone together. We found it, she said, her tired face breaking into a smile. The frequency that disrupts their neural pathways. She played a sound. It seemed normal to human ears, but when she directed it at the alien tissue samples, they shriveled and turned black. It affects their biology at a cellular level, Dad explained, but it has no effect on human tissue. June looked impressed. How strong is the effect? Strong enough to kill them, Sue said. But that's not all we found. She pulled up images from Dad's samples. The Vor are not just taking tribute from planets. They're harvesting genetic material. Those tanks Dad saw. They're creating hybrid soldiers from the species they conquer. And those light veins in their ship, Dad added. They're like a nervous system. The ship itself is partly alive, connected to the Vor hive mind. Mina shuddered. So what does this mean for our plan? It means, Sue said, that if we can get our device to the heart of their mothership, we might be able to take down their entire fleet at once. June nodded, his face set with determination. Then that's exactly what we'll do. The deadline had arrived. 10 large Earth ships floated in space, loaded with the tribute the Vor had demanded. 5,000 tons of rare metals, 1,000 tons of food, and 500 humans. Except the humans were actually advanced robots, designed to look and act like scared prisoners. Each one carried tiny tracking devices. Commander June stood on the bridge of the lid ship. He wore a simple gray uniform with no marks of rank. Today, he was just another human bringing tribute, not a military leader. We're approaching the meeting point, the pilot said. Outside the view screen, the Vor ships appeared. There were 5 of them, each bigger than Earth's largest ships. They surrounded the tribute convoy like wolves around sheep. "Stay calm," Jun said to his crew. "Remember, we're playing along. For now." The radio crackled. "Tribute accepted," came the clicking voice of a Vor. "Prepare for boarding." Jun felt his heart beat faster, but kept his face calm. This was the dangerous part. If the Vor discovered the robots or the tracking devices, the plan would fail. The alien ships connected to the Earth vessels with long tubes. Vor soldiers came through, their hard bodies making clicking sounds as they walked. They inspected the tribute, checking the metals and food. One Vor, larger than the others, approached Jun. Its 6 eyes moved over him. "You lead these ships?" it asked. Jun nodded. "Yes, we bring what was asked." The Vor made a sound that might have been laughter. "Good. Humans learn place quickly. Some species fight until extinction. Waste of resources." It turned to the line of humans being loaded onto the Vor ships. "These will serve well." Jun fought to keep his face blank. Where are you taking them?" "Many places, some for work, some for study, some for food." The Vor seemed to enjoy Jun's discomfort. "Want to see?" Before Jun could answer, the alien grabbed his arm with a clawed hand and pulled him toward the connection tube. "Special tour for obedient human leader." Jun had no choice. This hadn't been part of the plan, but it could be useful. He followed the Vor onto their ship. The inside was as Da had described. Hot, with a strange smell and walls that seemed alive. But what Jun saw next would haunt his dreams forever. The Vor took him to a large chamber where tribute from other worlds was being processed. Some aliens with blue skin and 4 arms sorted metals. They looked thin and sick. Guards watched them closely. In another area, different aliens were being taken into small rooms. Screams came from inside. The Vor guide seemed pleased by Jun's horror. "Research subjects," it explained. "Very useful." Worst of all was the feeding area. Jun turned away, unable to watch as Vor fed on living creatures. "This will happen to Earth," the guide said, "unless tributes continue. Forever." By the time Jun returned to his ship, his hands were shaking with anger. But now he had seen the layout of a Vor ship with his own eyes. He knew where guards were posted, how the doors worked, where the important areas were. Back on Earth, Jun reported everything to the War Council. "It's worse than we thought," he told them. "The Vor don't just take tributes. They use up entire species until nothing remains." He pulled up the data from the tracking devices. They showed the positions of all the Vor ships. "But now we know where they are. We know how their ships work. And most importantly, we know we're right to fight." Engineer Sue nodded. "The weapon is ready. We call it the Resonance Cascade device. It produces the frequency that disrupts their neural pathways." "Good," Jun said, "because we only get one chance at this. The next tribute is in 60 days. That's when we strike." Mina, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "How do we get the device onto their mothership?" Tactician Jin smiled for the first time in weeks. "We hide it in plain sight, right inside the next tribute." The Resonance Cascade device sat on a large table in the center of the lab. It was smaller than Sue had first built, now the size of a small suitcase. Its metal case glowed with a soft blue light from the power source inside. Engineer Sue pointed to different parts as she explained how it worked to the team. "The device produces the special sound frequency that hurts the Vor. When activated, it will build up power and then release a wave that spreads outward." "How far will it reach?" Han asked. Sue's face became serious. "That's the problem. Only about 500 meters. To affect the whole mothership, it needs to be placed at the center. And to affect their entire fleet, it needs to be in the mothership's control room," Jun added. "The ships are all connected through the hive mind." Everyone was quiet for a moment. They all understood what this meant. "Someone will have to take it in," Mina said finally. "Someone who can get past the Vor and reached the center of their ship. Tactician Jin nodded. We'll hide the device in the tribute goods, but we need a person to activate it once it's aboard. I'll go, Jum said immediately. No, Minna shook her head. You're needed to lead the defense forces if this fails. She took a deep breath. I should go. I speak some of their language. I can pass as a tribute overseer. June started to argue, but deep down he knew she was right. No one else could do it. You won't go alone, he said finally. We'll send a small team with you, disguised as tribute. Scientist Dai stepped forward. I should go too. I know the layout of their lab sections, and I can make final adjustments to the device if needed. Over the next weeks, they prepared. Mina and a team of special forces trained daily in combat and infiltration. They practiced moving quickly and quietly, fighting in the hot conditions of the warships. Sue worked to improve the device, making it more powerful and easier to hide. I've also made this, she told Mina, showing her a small disc that fit in the palm of her hand. It's a miniature version. The range is only 10 meters, but it could be useful as a last resort. Mina took the disc and put it on a chain around her neck, hiding it under her clothes. As they trained, June often worked with Mina. He taught her fighting techniques he had learned in special forces years ago. She was a quick learner. Why did you volunteer? He asked her one day after training. You know how dangerous this is. Mina wiped sweat from her face. I saw the look in your eyes after you came back from their ship. Whatever you saw there, I know we can't let that happen to Earth. June nodded. He hadn't told anyone all the horrors he had seen on the warship. Some things were too terrible to describe. Just promise me you'll be careful, he said. I'll do what needs to be done, she replied. The night before the mission, Earth's leaders held one final meeting. They reviewed the plan one more time. The tribute ships will dock with the mothership, Jin explained. The device is hidden in the metal containers. Mina and her team will be disguised as tribute supervisors. Once aboard, they'll separate from the main group and make their way to the central core, Han continued. They'll place and activate the device, then try to escape during the confusion. And if they're caught? Someone asked. The room went quiet. Then Earth's military will attack with everything we have, Jones said firmly. We won't let their sacrifice be for nothing. Later that night, June found Mina standing alone, looking at the stars. Nervous, he asked. A little, she admitted, but also ready. If we don't stop them now, no one will. June reached out and squeezed her hand. Come back alive. That's an order. Mina smiled, but they both knew some orders couldn't be followed. The second tribute was almost ready. 10 ships waited in Earth's orbit, loaded with metals, food, and the special containers hiding the resonance device. The countdown had begun. In the military base below, Mina and her team prepared for their mission. There were 5 of them. Mina, Da, and 3 special forces soldiers named Quan, Bak, and Ta. They would pose as human overseers for the tribute. Mina checked her uniform one last time. It looked ordinary, but had hidden pockets for small weapons. The mini device from Sue hung around her neck beneath her clothes. Remember, June told the team during their final briefing, your main goal is to reach the central core and activate the device. Everything else is secondary. Even getting out alive? Quan asked with a small smile. June's face remained serious. Yes, if you have to choose between escaping and making sure the device works, choose the device. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what he was saying. Day studied the hologram map of the Vor mothership that they had created from scanning data. The central core should be here. He pointed to the center of the map. Based on my observations and the ship's design, this is where their queen will be. Queen? Mina asked. Yes, Da nodded. From the samples I collected, I believe the Vor have a queen who controls the hive mind. If we can affect her with the device, the entire fleet will be vulnerable. That evening, celebrations began across Earth. People gathered in streets and parks, watching fireworks light up the sky. Music played and food was shared. To the Vor watching from space, it looked like humans accepting their new place in the galaxy. But it was something different. It was humanity saying goodbye to the world they knew, and hoping for a new dawn. Many understood that tomorrow might bring either freedom or extinction. In a quiet room away from the celebrations, Engineer Sue worked frantically on last-minute improvements to the device. "I've increased the power," she told Mina when she came to check. "It should now reach about 700 meters. But be careful. It will be hot when activated. Don't touch the case." Mina nodded, memorizing every detail. Later, she found June on the roof of the command center, looking at the stars. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Not tonight," he admitted. "Too much thinking." They stood together in silence for a while, watching the distant lights of the Vor ships. When June finally spoke, his voice was different, softer than his usual command tone. "When I was on their ship," he said, "I saw what happens to worlds that surrender. It's slow death. Species that give in don't survive. They're used up until nothing remains." "That won't happen to us," Mina said firmly. June turned to her. "Because of you." He paused, then added, "I wish I was going instead. You know why it has to be me." "Yes," he sighed. "But that doesn't make it easier." Without thinking, Mina moved closer and kissed him. For a moment, they forgot about aliens and war and duty. They were just two people, finding comfort in the last quiet hours before battle. When they separated, June touched her face gently. "Come back," he whispered. "I'll try," she promised. But they both knew some promises were harder to keep than others. Morning came too quickly. The tribute ships prepared for launch. Mina and her team took their positions, disguised among the crew. Just before boarding, Dai approached Mina with a serious face. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "The device. There's a chance it might overload if left running too long." "What would happen?" Mina asked. "It would explode," Dai said simply, taking a large part of the ship with it. Mina absorbed this information. "How long do we have after activation?" 10 minutes, maybe less." She nodded. "Then we'll need to be quick." As the ships lifted off, heading toward the waiting Vor fleet, Jun watched from the command center. His face showed no emotion, but his hands were clenched tight at his sides. "Good luck," he whispered to the departing ships. "And goodbye." The tribute ships moved slowly toward the waiting Vor fleet. From the window, Mina could see the massive mothership. It was much larger than the other alien vessels, with strange spikes sticking out from its dark hull. 2 minutes until docking," the pilot announced. Mina looked at her team. They all wore plain gray uniforms like tribute supervisors. The special weapons they carried were hidden under their clothes. "Remember the plan," she said quietly. "We stay together until the cargo is unloaded. When the Vor guards are distracted, we slip away to find the central core." Day held the case with tools that actually contained controls for the resonance device. "The device is in container T14, he reminded them. "We need to stay close to it." The ships docked with a heavy thud. Doors opened, and the hot, strange smell of the Vor ship filled the air. Alien guards came aboard, clicking and hissing as they inspected the tribute. Mina stepped forward. "Tribute ready for delivery," she said in the Vor language she had learned. Her pronunciation was not perfect, but good enough. The lead guard looked at her with its 6 eyes. "Follow," it ordered. They moved into the Vor mothership. It was even larger inside than it appeared from outside. The walls pulsed with the same light veins Dai had described. Mina felt like she was inside a giant, living creature. The tribute was taken to a large storage area. Human workers began unloading the containers under Vor supervision. Mina and her team stayed with container T14, which held the device. "Now," she whispered when the guards moved to check another area. The team slipped behind a row of large containers. Quan used a small device to show them a map of the ship. "This way to the central area," he pointed. They moved quickly through service corridors, avoiding Vor patrols. Twice they had to hide in small storage rooms when guards passed by. The ship was like a maze, with corridors that all looked the same. After 20 minutes of careful movement, they'd reached a security door. It was larger than the others, with strange symbols glowing on its surface. This must lead to the inner sections, Day said. Ta stepped forward with a small tool. I can open it, but it might alert them. We have no choice, Minna decided. Do it. Ta worked on the door for a minute. It slid open with a hiss. They rushed through, but as the door closed behind them, a loud alarm began to sound. They know we're here, Back said, pulling out his weapon. Run, Minna ordered. They sprinted down the corridor toward the center of the ship. The alarm got louder, and they could hear the clicking sounds of Vor soldiers behind them. At a junction, they were met by 3 Vor guards. Quan and Back fired their weapons, dropping 2 of the aliens. The third charged forward. Tai jumped in front, fighting hand-to-hand with the much larger creature. He managed to kill it, but was badly wounded. Go on, he gasped, holding his bleeding side. I'll hold them here. We can't leave you, Minna started, but Tai shook his head. Complete the mission, he said firmly. I'll buy you time. With heavy hearts, they continued, leaving Todd with extra weapons. Soon they heard fighting behind them. Tad was keeping his promise. The team reached a large circular room filled with strange machines. The floor was made of a clear material, and below it they could see the pulsing heart of the ship, a giant version of the light veins that ran throughout the vessel. We're close, Daz said. The central chamber should be just ahead. But as they approached the next door, a group of Vor soldiers surrounded them. Quan and Back fought bravely, but there were too many. Back fell first, then Quan. Get to the center, Quan shouted as he fell. We'll hold them. Mina and Dai ran for the door while the soldiers fought behind them. They'd made it through, but Day was hit by a Vor weapon. He stumbled, blood spreading across his shirt. I'm not going to make it, he said, handing Minna the control case. You have to finish this alone. Don. No. The Queen will be in the center. The device needs to be as close to her as possible. He pressed something into her hand. A small detonator. Use this if the controls fail. Minna took a deep breath, then nodded. She had a mission to complete, no matter the cost. For Earth, she said. For Earth, Day replied weakly. Now go. I'll hold this door. With tears in her eyes, Minna turned and ran deeper into the heart of the alien mothership. Minna ran through the pulsing corridors, alone now. The sounds of fighting faded behind her. Her friends were gone, but their sacrifice would not be wasted. She would complete the mission. The corridor opened into a massive chamber. The ceiling was so high she could barely see it. In the center was a raised platform surrounded by glowing light veins that connected to the walls, floor, and ceiling. On the platform sat a creature unlike any Vor Minna had seen before. It was 3 times larger than the others, with a body that seemed to glow from within. Its plates were golden rather than dark, and it had 8 eyes instead of 6. Around it, smaller Vor moved like servants. The Queen, Minna whispered to herself. She ducked behind a column, checking the small screen on the control case. It showed that container T-14 with the resonance device was now in a storage room 2 levels below. She needed to activate it from here. Suddenly, the Queen's voice filled the chamber. It was deeper and clearer than other Vor voices. Come out, human. I know you are there. Minna froze. How could the Queen know? Your friends died bravely, the Queen continued. Come and face me directly. It is the honorable way. Slowly, Minna stepped out from behind the column. The smaller Vor moved toward her, but the Queen raised a clawed hand to stop them. Approach, the Queen ordered. Minna walked forward, her hand on the small disc around her neck. Sue's mini device. As she got closer to the platform, she could see the Queen better. Despite being a monstrous alien, there was intelligence in those 8 eyes. You came to destroy us, The Queen said. It wasn't a question. You gave us no choice, Minna replied. You threatened our world, demanded our people as tribute. The Queen made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. This is the way of the universe. The strong take from the weak. The Vor have done this for 10,000 years. And no one has ever fought back. Minna asked, moving closer step by step. Many have tried. All have failed. The Queen's voice held no worry, only certainty. Your species is no different from the others. Less advanced, actually. The 17 worlds before you had better weapons, better ships, better warriors. But they didn't have this, Minna said. She pressed a button on the control case. Far below, in the storage room, the resonance device activated, but nothing happened in the Queen's chamber. The Queen laughed again. Your device failed. How disappointing. Mina's heart sank. Something had gone wrong. The device must have been damaged during transit or discovered and moved. You see, the Queen continued, humans are nothing special. Mina didn't wait to hear more. She pulled the disc from around her neck and activated it. This was Sue's backup plan, the mini device with a 10-meter range. The effect was immediate. The Queen let out a terrible scream. The light veins in the walls flickered. The smaller Vor fell to the ground, their bodies shaking. What have you done? The Queen gasped, her massive body convulsing. Humans might not be special, Minna said, but we learn from our mistakes, and we never, ever give up. The Queen collapsed, not dead but severely weakened. The hive-mind connection was temporarily broken. Throughout the mothership, Vor soldiers stumbled and fell as the controlling influence failed. Minna ran to a communication panel on the wall. Using the knowledge she had gained of Vor technology, she managed to open a channel to Earth. Earth Command, this is Mina, she said, her voice steady despite everything. Phase 1 complete. The Queen is down. Their fleet is vulnerable. Commence Phase 2. On Earth, in the command center, Jun heard her voice and felt a surge of hope and pride. She did it, he said to the officers around him. Then, with new determination in his voice, he gave the order they had been waiting for. Launch all ships. Begin the attack. The backup fleet that had been hiding behind Earth's moon moved into position. Each ship carried weapons based on Sue's design, mass-produced in secret. As Mina watched through a view screen in the Queen's chamber, hundreds of Earth ships appeared, surrounding the disoriented Vor fleet. The tide had turned. Now it was humanity's turn to attack. Earth's ships moved into attack formation. Each one carried resonance weapons that could disrupt the Vor neural pathways. The alien fleet, confused without the Queen's guidance, responded slowly and without coordination. On the command ship, Jun watched the battle screens with intense focus. Target their weapon systems first, he ordered. Then their engines. The Earth fleet fired. Beams of energy hit the Vor ships, followed by missiles carrying resonance devices. When they exploded, they released the special frequency that affected Vor biology. Ship after ship of the alien fleet went dark or began to drift aimlessly. Inside the mothership, Minna knew she wasn't safe yet. The Queen was starting to recover, her body shaking less violently. You will die, the Queen hissed. Minna looked around the chamber, searching for a way to cause more damage. She noticed that all the light veins connected to a large crystal behind the Queen's platform. It pulsed with energy, the heart of the ship. She remembered Dae's last words. Use the detonator if the controls fail. She still had it in her pocket. The Queen rose shakily to her feet. Some of the smaller Vor were beginning to move again too. The effect of the mini-device was wearing off. Minna made her decision. She ran toward the crystal, dodging the still clumsy Vor guards. Reaching the power core, she placed the detonator against it and set the timer for 2 minutes. This is for Earth. And for Da, Ta, Quan, and back. The Queen realized what was happening. Stop her, she screamed, but it was too late. Mina turned and ran for the exit. She had 2 minutes to find an escape pod, if such things existed on a Vor ship. Outside the mothership, the battle raged. Earth's ships were winning, but taking damage too. June's command ship stayed at the center of the formation, directing the attack. "Sir," a young officer called, "we're getting a strange energy reading from the mothership. It's building up power." June frowned. That wasn't part of the plan. Then he realized what it might mean. "Mina," he whispered. On the communications screen, a message appeared. It was text only, not voice. Core set to overload. "Get clear. Sorry I couldn't keep my promise. All ships pull back." June ordered immediately. Maximum distance from the mothership. Inside the alien vessel, Mina ran through corridors filled with confused and injured Vor. She found what looked like transport pods near the outer hull. With seconds to spare, she jumped into one and hit what she hoped was the launch control. The pod shot away from the mothership just as the first explosions began inside. The detonator had set off the power core, creating a chain reaction throughout the ship. The mothership exploded in a massive ball of light. The blast was so powerful it destroyed several nearby Vor ships too. The remaining alien vessels, without the central control of the Queen, were easy targets for Earth's fleet. Within an hour, it was over. The mighty Vor armada was reduced to floating debris. Earth had won. June stood at the window of his ship, watching the rescue teams searching for survivors among the wreckage. He had given strict orders to find any escape pods from the mothership. "Sir," an officer approached. "We found something." June's heart jumped. "What is it?" "A Vor transport pod. It's damaged, but our scans show a human life sign inside. Weak, but alive." Hours later, in the medical bay, June sat beside Mina's bed. She was injured, but would recover. When she opened her eyes and saw him, she smiled weakly. "Did we win?" she asked. "Yes," he said, taking her hand. "Thanks to you." 6 months later, Earth held a memorial service for those lost in what was now called the Vor War. Monuments were built honoring Da, Ta, Quan, Bak, and all others who had given their lives. Engineer Su led a team studying the alien technology recovered from the wreckage. It would advance human science by centuries. June and Mina, now married, stood together at the ceremony. They watched as a new ship was launched, Earth's first true starship, built with knowledge gained from the Vor. "What do you think is out there?" Mina asked, looking up at the stars. "More challenges, probably," June replied. "Maybe more species like the Vor. Are we ready for that?" June thought about what humanity had accomplished when faced with extinction, how they had united, fought, and won against impossible odds. "Yes," he said confidently, "I think we are." Above them, the stars seemed brighter somehow, as humanity took its first steps into a larger universe, no longer as prey, but as equals to whatever waited among the stars. The end.